All right. Hello, my name is Kareem Rae, and I am the founder of onesoccernation. Join me on my journey to becoming a professional soccer player. Our objective is to help guide aspiring soccer players to achieve success in the beautiful game we both love. Today, we are here with Matt Poland. Matt is a professional football coach at Naples United FC. Matt, I just want to thank you really quickly for joining us on the program. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
can you take us back in time and tell us a little bit about where it all began for yourself with soccer?
Yeah, I just started playing as a kid, like everyone, local rec leagues, that type of thing. And I had always been one of the better players, but my parents had never played soccer, so they, sometimes people would be like, "Your son's good," and they were like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And you're just one of the kids. They didn't understand any of it, so I was pretty late to joining competitive club because my parents just did not know anything about it. And then it was kind of every time I went to a better team, I was still one of the better players. And maybe in high school, my parents started saying, okay, like, yeah, your little kid dream of wanting to be a professional player. We don't know if you can do that, but like, you're definitely good enough to go to college and play, which is the pretty typical route in the US soccer system. So went to college, played soccer there. But then again, it was kind of now you're at the next level, the next competitive level, and I was still one of the top players. So in the summer, started playing at the time PDL, which is now USL League Two, to kind of test yourself against the other top college players, which was a really great experience for me. And I'd wanted to play professionally, and I said, these are the guys I'm competing for those spots, those contract spots. So, anyways, then graduated college, and then signed with a sports management group in Chicago called Bridges to the Pros. And so they do it two different ways. One, they place you with trials with teams, and the other thing they do is they take a summer trip to Scandinavia, where they take a whole team over to Scandinavia and they play friendlies during the summer break, against professional teams to allow them to possibly get scouted through that. So I signed with them, and was planning on going on the trip in July of 2015.
Yep.
However, a team came up, wanted me in February of 2015 over in Finland. So I ended up leaving before the trip to go on trial with a club over in Finland. And then I signed with them at the start of March. So March 2015 was my first contract.
So in March 15th, wait, you said March 15th, 2015? Was that it?
No, I was like March 2nd or 3rd of 2015 though.
2015. And in 2015, what was your age?
So I just turned 23. So if you go the university route, and I was older for my grade, right? So by the time I graduated college, I was 22. So you start the professional journey out later if you decide to go the university route. So that's definitely a negative in one sense, because you're already old at 23, and you don't, and that's your first year of professional soccer. But on the other hand, if soccer doesn't work out, or like all of us, eventually you have to retire from playing. Having that college degree is a really good thing. So that's definitely a difficult decision for players to decide which route to take with that.
Yeah, and when you went to school, what did you study?
So I had always known when I was done playing I wanted to be a coach. So I actually studied exercise science with a focus on strength and conditioning, because I wasn't a big fan of school, to put it mildly, but I figured learning about the body, understanding how the body recovers, how the body trains, and the benefits from different types of nutrition, all of those things would help me, even if I didn't, even if I wasn't, a strength and conditioning coach for a soccer team. Just as a coach, having that background would be beneficial to me.
Understood. And did you graduate?
I did. I got that degree.
Nice. So
Although I have never, it got sent to my parents, the diploma, and I've never actually seen it. But the school writes me saying, "Please send money," so I'm guessing I graduated.
nice. So, being 23, as you were saying, it's an old age. How did you get through it mentally, not being signed until 23? Like, what did you go through mentally in your mind, you know, with yourself at 23 before signing? Was it a challenge or was it like, I'm gonna make it?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You know, I was never. There's a few players in life that you'll encounter, and by 15 years old, everyone knew they were going to play professionally and be successful, and they at least make it there. Now, if they're successful long term, there is another question, but they usually those type of talented players will make it. And then the rest of professional players, I would say, aren't that way. Everyone didn't know they were going to just succeed their whole career. They were good, but they had to put in a lot of work. So I was definitely confident that I was maybe not better than everyone else. I wouldn't say that, but I would say I was very confident that I was willing to commit more time and energy into developing myself. And so in the end, I would be a better product than my competition.
Understood. So, moving on, what sacrifices have you and your family made for soccer?
So many, so many. I think that's the name of the game. Unless you're blessed to, have an amazing club 5 minutes from where you live or something. I think the first and foremost is from the parent side is they're just driving you constantly your whole childhood, all across. For me, all across the Midwest at the time, and paying for all the in the U.S. soccer's not cheap. When you play competitive clubs, it's a pay to play system. And so you're paying quite a bit of money. Now that's changed partly with the academies and all of that, but this was before that time. Um, and so I think, they sacrificed a lot in that. And I think um, for me personally, the sacrifices were, I mean, they're continuing even now, but it's kind of like weddings, for example. I'm at that age where a lot of friends get married. And I think now I've missed probably 29 weddings as one example, because we have games on the weekends and that's when people get married. So you can't go. I missed a lot of family gatherings, my brother's graduation from college, from the Air Force Academy. The list goes on and on. So it's hard to say how many sacrifices. It's just a lot, and you have to go into it knowing that you're gonna have to give those up, and you're gonna whatever it is in college. If you're a college player, you're gonna have to give up parties sometimes, and you're gonna have to give up certain things, and then because if you want this bigger goal, you can't do what everyone else is doing, and you can't have the free time that everyone else has, or you will never achieve it.
Understood. And where'd you gain this mentality? Like, were you born with it, or did you just know this is the goal and this is what I want to focus on to achieve? How was it something gained through time?
That's good. That's a good question. I don't know what degree we're born with things. Um, I think a lot of it is, but I think there is partly that, or maybe it's the environment that we're raised in, because it is as a coach now seeing players that are maybe 18, 19 years old. They're kind of who they are as players. So not to say they can't improve their skills and things, but it's very hard if they're, say, a player who doesn't want to track back and play defense. It's very hard at 19 years old when they've been playing for 14, 15 years to change that mentality. Doesn't mean it's impossible. With most players, I'd say they're kind of their identity is. So I think it's a mixture of learned and also kind of maybe that environment you are in a childhood, what your coaches demanded, and that sort of thing. But for me, a big thing too was a mentor of mine in Chicago who played 16 years professionally, and he was the defensive coach for the women's national team at one point, USL Hall of Fame coach. And the biggest thing I took away from him, I guess, is a story about coal miners. And the coal miners stuck out to me because I had a great grandfather who was a coal miner, and he goes, a coal miner goes to work 6 days a week, 12-hour days. This is back in the day, right?
Yep.
Knowing that there's a good chance they get some type of lung issue or death or the cave collapses, whatever. And it's not easy work. It's physical, dangerous, hard work. There's no glory and there's very little money, but he needs to do it to feed his family. So no matter how tired he is from the first 5 days of work that week, he goes the sixth day and he finishes his 12-hour shift. He goes, but he had to. He had to feed his family. Now, soccer players, they're a different breed. If you don't track back on defense that last time in the 88th minute, your family's still getting fed. It's
Mm,
not life or death in the same way. And if you're tired, oh, you just work at 50% that training, maybe no one even notices. And he said, so soccer breeds a certain weakness if you allow it. If you allow the weakness in, it's very easy, right? You become the greatest debate lawyer in all the world when you start feeling tired and you want to convince yourself to give up. And he said, it doesn't matter what you do, whatever drill you do, if you allow yourself to quit one time, you've told your body, you've told your mind that that's an option. So he said, never feed it that it's an option. Be like that coal miner. You never have the option to quit. You never can get tired because if you don't, like, what do you do then? Who are you as a player if you've decided you can quit or not? And so that mentality, I think, is what really helped me continue to work hard when I didn't want to, because I realized, if you lose that aspect of yourself, that you allow yourself to quit, it doesn't matter the skills you have or anything else. Who are you as a player? You know,
that's deep.
just guy who's willing to quit if he gets tired.
That's huge. And what age were you when you came across that information through your mentor?
Uh, I met him when I was in college, so I was probably about 19. So definitely someone I wish I would have met earlier in life. I think that would have been a big benefit. But um, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that I was like a quitter before then or anything. So again, I think who I was at 19 was kind of solidified, but I think it gave me that extra kind of insight into pushing myself and realizing, you can't be tired. You can't allow yourself to think you're tired. You just have to keep pushing on.
Yes, that's a great mentality. I know we're at 15 minutes. Are you good on time right now?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool. Just a couple more.
yeah. I'm chill.
So when you signed going back to when you signed your first professional contract back in Finland, 2015, you were 23. How did it feel? Like after all the works that you've put in to finally accomplish your goal, how did it feel?
I mean, it's definitely a incredible feeling when you sign that first contract, when you put pen to paper. Um, it's this. It's hard though because in one sense you've dreamed about this moment, right? You've dreamed of what that moment would feel like, and so it feels incredible. In the other hand, you sign the piece of paper and nothing's changed. Like, yeah, it's changed, but in that split second difference, right? It's like when it's your birthday and you wake up and they go, how does whatever, if you're 17, how does 18 feel? And yeah, 18 and 17 are huge differences of what you're allowed to do, at least in the US by law. But do you feel any different in that moment? Not really, right? And so it's kind of this, like, you feel like you should feel more, but you're also really excited because you know what it means. But then also this reality goes, oh no, like, that just brought me to the start of the race, where like people think like the professional contract is the end of it, right? That's all we think of. Like we as younger players dream of, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to play at the best club and maybe play at university, and then I'm going to sign that professional contract. And that's kind of where the thinking stops. That's where the dream stops in a sense. That's the finish line is the professional contract. As soon as you sign it, you realize, "Yeah, that's not the finish line at all. That's the start line. Now you have to prove yourself." So it's like you sign that first contract. Now you have to worry about what's your first game. Can I can I get on the team? For away games, can I be chosen for the 18? Can I get a starting position? Can I keep my starting position? Now that those realities come in, so as valuable as on that professional contract, it's not like you're like, all right, I have 4 months to think about it before season starts. Like, no, you sign that contract, and now you're in preseason fighting for that spot. So it was very enjoyable, but at the same time, you don't have much time to think about it because you're chasing the next thing you need in your career.
Yeah, and like, it's only the beginning, and I thought it was pretty interesting when I heard you say that when you start getting paid to do what you love, or it wasn't along these words, but you said it didn't it started to not become fun in a way you said. So I wanted to hear a little
Yeah,
of what, your experience was with that.
yeah. So I mean, overall, still when I was a professional player, still love the sport, still had fun with it, but it's not the same. It's not the same fun that you have when you play Sunday league or pick up with your buddies. Because at the end of the day, the second that you become a professional player, it's a business. And when you enter into a business, expectations, things like that from ownership, from fans, from newspapers, media, all of those things change. Three foreign players on a team, your standard is different than the other guy on the team. Fair or not, you're on the same exact team, but your standards of what you need to do on the field are different. And so there was a time really where it wasn't as fun because it's like, well, I didn't play any worse than the guy next to me, and yet in the newspaper they're writing I played bad. Well, they had a different standard for me because I had a different salary behind my name. And so the expectations were greater that came with that. Right? You want to be the American player on a foreign team making more money, well, then you have to play at a higher level than what the average player on the team has to. And so that was kind of a learning curve for me of this is the business side of it. And the reality is no matter where you go, and not that I played for teams that were ruthless or anything like that, but when it becomes a business, it changes. And so there's some things like getting paid to do it, which is absolutely so enjoyable, so fun. But then there's other expectations that come with getting paid that maybe aren't so fun that you've never had to experience as a soccer player growing up.
Understood. Yeah, and I don't think a lot of players coming up know that because they haven't experienced it yet, or maybe someone that hasn't told them yet. So that's great information that you're sharing through your experience. Thank you. And
And I will say this real quick with along that line too is, part of it with the contract is now that's how you provide for your way of life, or if you have a family, how you provide for your family. And so when training doesn't go well, when you're playing, say with your club team at 18, okay, well you go home and you still have school and your mom still makes you dinner, and tomorrow, even if the club went down, there's another club in the town that you can sign for. Maybe it's not as good, but it's still you're playing with your buddies, this, that, and the third. When you're a professional player and training doesn't go well, you immediately like, well, team could give you the axe. Okay, say you're out of contract. Now you don't have money. Well, how do you train properly if you have to then go find a job because you don't have under contract? Okay, is another team going to sign you because you just got, cut from another team? And so some of those aspects of it being a job, make it not so fun at times. Again, getting paid is incredible for it, but it changes things for it, right? It's like the first time you tell your girlfriend you love her. It's great to hear I love you too. But now the relationship has changed for better or worse from what it was when you guys were just, texting each other till 2 in the morning on a school night.
yeah, for sure. And the dynamic you just spoke of work, but as well as time too, right? So time being input to work, and then having also energy, having the energy and time to then also put in the works for training. So yeah, very great points, Matt. Thank you. Um, and you know, for your process, because I know some players that didn't have an agent and they still signed a contract, or um, there's all different types of scenarios. But for you, did you have a lawyer? Did you have an agent during your signing process, or was it just
Yeah, so I always went the route of agent. I know a lot of guys who don't have agents, and the positive of not having an agent is you keep all your money.
mm,
Um, so that's great. The negative of not having an agent is if a team tries to screw you over or do anything shady, you then have to take all of that, all of your own energy and resources to fight that and figure it out. Whereas if you have an agent, teams are less likely to try to pull things over you because you have somebody checking over the contracts, all of that. But you also have somebody in your corner if something goes wrong to go and speak to, um, the sports director or whatever at your club, and you don't have to put your energy towards it. So it's kind of like I don't know, take insurance, take health insurance. If you're healthy and everything goes great, health insurance is a waste of money. If something goes wrong, you're thankful you have health insurance. Flip of a coin if you need it that year, kind of thing. So I was lucky I never really had to use my agent for those type of things. I never had clubs that tried to screw me over like that, but I always liked knowing that security it gave me. So it's kind of, I guess, it's personal preference too. And I would also say it depends on where you're playing and who you know, right? If you have a connection with the club and it's a club in your country or something, it's probably pretty easy to not work with an agent if you know them on a personal basis. If you've never met them, you're going to a new country, you don't know anything about them, might be better to have an agent to make sure, again, because I've had a lot of people that I've met in my life. One guy, for example, that ended up living with me for a couple weeks over in Finland. He signs for a club, signs a contract, professional contract, starts in 2 weeks. He goes back to the Caribbean to pick up his stuff for the season. When he flies back to Finland, the club in Finland goes, "Oh, well, we found someone else we liked for your position. And your contract, if you read very carefully on page 32, says we can null and void this contract in the first 14 days for whatever reason we choose." So the guy flies all the way to the Caribbean from Finland, which is a long distance and a lot of money. And now he's stuck in Finland and he's burned up all his money. So then he had to try to figure out how to get a club for the season or how to get back to the islands.
that's great?
Now, he didn't have an agent. If he has an agent who reads that over, hey, let's look that over. Says they can just get rid of the contract. Let's take that out. Maybe he has that contract. So again, I've seen it both ways. It's kind of personal preference on it. But for me personally, the way I live, I'd rather pay a little bit up front and know I have that security.
Yeah, and this where the conversation is right now. Is it's a business. That's the business side of it right there. Yeah, that's man, that's crazy. Okay, so uh, you met your agent before you signed. So were you 23 when you met your agent, or was it earlier?
It was earlier. So through this Bridges program, they had recruited me during college and kind of, hey, we want you to come train with us, I guess is the way I'd put it. So during all breaks from college season, so Christmas break for 6 weeks, summer break for whatever that was, 10 weeks, I would go to Chicago and train with them. I wasn't allowed to sign or anything, obviously, because I was still a university player. But as soon as I graduated from university, then they offered me that sports management contract.
Nice. And how was the relationship between you and your agent? Did you get to know him on a personal level, or was it just strictly business? How was that relationship?
So it started out just strictly business, I would say. Um, Partly me as a young guy, maybe not wanting to uh, demand anything from my agent, want anything from my agent, too scared to ruffle feathers, maybe. Um, and then as I got deeper into my career, I started more communication with them and more also, I'm paying for service. And so not to be rude, not to um, be a snob about it, but you're paying for a monthly service. And so what do you want out of that service, and are you getting what you want? So then I think I became a little more of communicating, um, you know, checking in after games, talking about things, how it went, things I'm happy with here, things I'm not, things I'm thinking about, that type of stuff. Um, so it became more of a friendship as they got older, I'd say. And then surprisingly, now that I'm a coach, my relationship with him is even better. Now we'll sit and talk for an hour at times. I think partly because one, we can work together because he has players. So if I'm interested in signing a player, he's a perfect person to go to, because I can trust his opinion. Um, if he tells me they play like me, I say no, thank you. Uh, but
Why do you say?
but he's he's. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Uh,
Just kidding. Too many headaches. But but no, but so now he's somebody who's a friend. So I mean, I think what was it? Maybe 10 days ago, he called and we talked for like an hour.
nice. That's always nice. And what did you do anything differently leading up to you signing, or was it just mastering the basics? And what are those basics?
Sorry, it cut out. Can you repeat that?
Let me see. Um, was there anything that you did differently leading up to you signing a professional career, or uh, was it just sticking to mastering the basics and focusing on your craft?
Yeah, I don't think I did so much anything differently. It's really just, yeah, that mastering the basics, refining things to be not just good but elite,
Mm,
whatever that is. So, if you're a good university player that can play at, what is it now, USL 2 or something, and can be a starter, you obviously have a certain level of foundational skill, right? You've developed those foundations through your career. And so now it's, can you take those foundational skills and not just be proficient at it, but be elite, right? Because we were talking earlier this week, and what you do on the field 90% of the time is the same as the guy across from you in your position. There are some differences, and the very little at the top, but that's not what's going to get you playing time. What'll get you playing time, what'll get you recognized, what'll get you signed is being elite at those basic things that you're going to do 90% of the time when you get the ball in your position. And so for every position, obviously that's different, and every system of play is different, and every player inside of a system is going to be different, right? So for me personally, I'm not a big 1v1 tackler. I'm much more of reading passing lines. So what I'm going to work on is going to be different than a center back playing next to me who's all about stepping up and tackling 1v1s, because our game styles are different even in the same system. So yeah, so it was really just making sure like everything was as sharp as possible. So where was my fitness level? Was it exactly where I needed to be to play 90 minutes, recover, and 3 days later, if I had to play again, another 90 minutes? How was my passing? Was it, and being hypercritical of myself? Was I playing the correct foot? Was I playing it with the right speed on the ground? Whatever it was I giving information with the ball just in my passes to my teammate so that he knew what to do? All of those little things. Now, again, one thing by themselves is, again, it's basics of football. But combine all of those together, and now you've created an elite player doing those basic things as well as possible.
well as possible. Did you have any failures before any success you had?
What's with this Wi-Fi?
It's my Wi-Fi. It's my Wi-Fi.
Sorry, repeat it.
But
Uh,
yeah,
uh,
uh,
I'm
leading
here.
leading up to your success. Oh, switching up.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me? Hey, Matt.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're good.
I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So, did you have any failures before success? And if you did, what would you do to rebound from the failure?
Yeah, I definitely had failures. Uh, I think if you don't have failures as a soccer player, you're not pushing yourself to be the best and seeing what your maximum potential is. Right? You want to put yourself up right at the very tipping point between your very best and where you fail. And
Mm,
so if you're not challenging that and challenging where that line is and whatever it is, you're not going to ever find your true potential as a player. So yeah, did I fail? Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you an example. In seventh grade, I was playing varsity soccer. So I'm playing with some, what am I at seventh grade? I don't even know my age, 13, 12, something like that. And I'm playing against like 17-year-olds for my school team. And I'm on the post at the time, and ball comes in on a corner, and I jump, and it hits off the top of my head, goes over the goalie's hands into the back of our net. Beautiful header if we were attacking, but we were defending, so not a great goal, right? And so I fail at it. I feel terrible. I've let down these guys that are older than me, all this stuff. Well, anyways, it motivates me,
mm,
right? So instead of shying away from heading the ball, then I absolutely fall in love with the process of heading. By the end of my career, heading is my strongest part of my game. Did I ever make mistakes? Sure, but I took that weakness and turned it into my biggest strength on the field. So I think you have to challenge yourself. You have to fail, find what you fail at, but you can't run from it. Instead, you have to use that then as a kind of a tool to tell you what to work on next,
mm.
right? And you can't be scared of it, and you can't, oh, I failed one time, so I'm never going to try again, right? Like you see one that always sticks out for me. I forget what game it was, but Ramos misses a PK, and then the next week they're in like a final, and he goes up and he steps up and he takes another penalty like it's nothing, makes it, and he's a hero. And that's the nature of sports as a whole. You're talking about inches difference to be the hero or to be you know the guy everyone blames for the loss. So you can't really let it affect you. You can't let it bother you. But on a personal basis, you have to kind of learn from those failures, put yourself in situations where you can fail. Right? You're gonna learn more about yourself. You're gonna learn more about who you are as a player through the failures than the wins. Because no matter what, in team sport, especially, right? You win. Say you win the game. It's easy to be a good teammate when you're winning.
You're losing.
Right? It's hard to be a bad teammate when you're winning a game. But when you're losing game, how are you as a teammate? How are you a person? Do you blame? Do you point fingers? Do you take responsibility yourself? Do you try to be a part of the problem? You try to fix the problem, or do you try to complain, right? And so failure or losing, whatever you want to call it, is probably the greatest teacher of the game. And if you self-analyze yourself through whatever failure it is, both team and individual, I think that gives you your greatest opportunity for growth.
I agree. Yeah. And in the game, Matt, what are accomplishments to you that you've achieved? Um, because I know some people they've accomplished so much and they're not accomplishments. They're always pushing for the next thing. So for you, um, What are things that you've achieved?
Um, I think for let's just say for college, the best thing I achieved was as part of a team who was 19-2-1 and like 12th in the nation. And as a center back, we went 8 games in a row to finish the season without allowing a goal. So I think that was a pretty cool thing. I've never been a part of a shutout streak that long. I mean, it was cool to see, but it was also cool to see the confidence you give your attacking players when they know 0-0 in the 70th minute is no worry because our defense doesn't let in goals. So that was a cool experience. Professionally, I was the first American at my club I played for in Sweden to be given the captain's armband.
Mm.
So that was just a cool honor, uh, to be to be considered a leader in a different culture was just a personal and honor that was kind of it was kind of nice to receive. Um, that being said, armband doesn't make a leader. So if you're somebody who thinks you're deserving of a captain armband and you're not given the captain armband, doesn't mean you're not a leader. Leaders lead. So whether you have that piece of rubber around your arm or not, you're still a leader if you're a leader.
Yeah,
Um,
that's.
and then as a coach, probably one. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no worries. Keep going.
And I would say as a coach, probably at least for me, it was pretty awesome. Just given that I'm still a young coach, is I was one of 3 American coaches coaching in Finland. So that was kind of a cool thing. Just because to be given the chance at such a young age is such an honor too. And on the most random one, I'm left-footed, and yet surprisingly through my career, I have more career right-footed goals.
That's interesting. I was gonna ask you about what was it? I should have asked you when you paused. Ah, I should have just asked you when you stopped. Okay, okay, let's just move on. It's not gonna pop up. Can you give us 3 tips that will guide youth Canadian players who aspire to become professional soccer players? What are 3 tips that you can share with the youth right now growing up that want to become professional soccer players or footballers that are gonna come across this video?
So my first is always be the player willing to do the work. If you want to be the player that just stands there and does some tricks and flicks and scores nice goals, you have to be incredibly talented at that to ever get a spot on a team. Now, if you're a little bit worse of a scoring player, but you also defend, coach is going to find opportunities to give you minutes to play and develop. So, no matter what position, be the player that works hard, right? There's maybe 2 or 3, I'll call them artists that play on the field, that create, that don't really defend as much, that do beautiful passes. But the rest of the guys on the team are workhorses. So your odds of making it to the top level, if you're a workhorse, you have 7 or 8 spots on a team rather than what, 2 or 3 if you're just the artist guy. So
Mhm.
work hard. That's number one. Number two, master the basics. So when you go out to train, what do you work on when you're an individual? Do you practice your penalty kicks and your free kicks that you might never take in a season? Or are you working on the things that specifically to your position, you're going to have to be asked to do 50, 60 times a game? Right? Those basic things, although boring, they're absolutely boring things most of the time. But those basics are what's going to make or break it if you're good enough for the top level. Can you be elite in those basic things? And then number 3 for me is more of a mental thing, but always take responsibility. So whenever you lose, can you watch the film of how the goal was scored or why the goal wasn't scored, whatever, if you're an attacking or defending player in that, and say, what could I have done differently to be a part of a solution that would have brought success? Not what did my teammate do wrong, not coach didn't do this right, all of that, but what could I have done? And sometimes it's kind of absurd. Sometimes you're reaching for the stars on what you could have done differently because you just really weren't involved in that play. But when you have that mentality, if every time you're a part of the problem, how can I be a part of the solution? You yourself are going to grow so much more as a player. Because the second, and this is what a lot of players do, they point the finger to somebody else because in the moment it feels good because you're not the one responsible. And so you can go to sleep easier knowing that it was Johnny's fault that they scored a goal or whatever. But the second that you point the finger to your teammate, the one thing you've done is you've excused yourself from responsibility, which means you've actually taken away something very important. And that's the skill or the ability from that situation to grow and learn from. Because if it's not your fault, there's nothing for you to grow and learn from.
Mm.
When it is your fault, there's something to grow, something to improve on. So you're actually cheating yourself in the long run if it's not your fault. If it is your fault, you're giving yourself opportunities to improve your game. So that kind of be my three things that younger players should stay focused on in their career.
Yeah, those are three great things that you shared with them. And last question, where has soccer led you to now? And I just want to comment really quickly on this. So, you always seemed to know exactly what you wanted to do. You went to school, and what you went to school for aligned with soccer, sports performance trainer, and you always knew that you wanted to get into coaching afterwards. Am I correct? Am I on the right point? Yeah. So then,
Correct.
um,
Correct.
so everything was so aligned with each other. And after your career, did you want to share about what happened, like the reason with the career, or is that
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
something?
so I was playing. Yeah, I can talk about it. So I was playing over in Europe, for professional season, and teammate lost the ball. Ball was dumped into the channel to the corner, and I turned and started running after the guy. Um, Something I'd done probably a million times in my career. And just that time, my foot got caught in the ground, I guess. And so I heard what sounded like a branch cracking. And I dislocated my knee, did a hairline fracture on my kneecap, tore my ACL and my meniscus. Um, and yeah, pretty devastating because I was playing some of the best footy of my life at that point. And then there you go. You're like, oh, season's over. Went and came back to the U.S. to have surgery, and unfortunately, even after rehabbing and all, it didn't heal in the way that would allow me to play. So I have a lot of pain in my knee, so I can't really do much running and things like that because just standing on it, coaching now, I feel it the next day. But at the same time, I'm thankful for the years that I did get to play as a professional, and I'm thankful that I still get to be around the game, just in uh, a different facet than before.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, do you get the are you what type of fulfillment are you getting from coaching?
Uh, you know, I mean, you got to be competitive in coaching, so that's number one probably. But I think for me, it's it's very fun to you're involved with the team, but you're kind of removed from the team in a sense. So you see things a lot of times that I didn't see as a player when you're in it, so to speak. And so you get to see this team kind of form and relationships, and you watch them sometimes hate each other, sometimes love each other, and how they kind of grow into essentially a family. I love that. I love the giving back and the developing of younger players because I think just in general in soccer, so many young players don't have good mentors,
Yeah.
and so most kids are figuring it out kind of blindly, and they don't have good advice of what to do or who to trust, and so you have a lot of people that take advantage of that, or you have kids that never get to reach their full potential because They just didn't know the route to go because they didn't have that guiding. So that mentorship is huge for me. Um, I think if at the end of the day, if soccer is only about soccer, I think we've kind of missed the point. I think it's so much more. I think it's so much more of a teacher to yourself. I think it's a developer. So right, so I coach men. So I think if you don't grow and develop as a man, if you're not a better human being because of your experiences on the soccer field, you're kind of wasting your time. Now, absolutely, like winning and losing, yes, those are important things. But if your whole career is just about winning and losing, it's empty. It's got to be about the relationships. It's got to be about you developing as a human being. It's got to be about you giving back to your community that you're in. Like those sort of things matter. And if you're not bought into those, why play? Why waste how many hours, a soccer player has to play to be a good player? Just to kick a ball? There's got to be more to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And Matt, I really enjoyed this call with you. This interview it was amazing. Um, I just really I want to just say thank you for your time, and this was great. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Hope it's helpful to any younger players that watch it, and they can feel free to reach out to me if they have any more questions.
Yeah. And where can they reach out to you?
Probably Instagram's the easiest. At M Poland, and then the number 4, my old playing number. So that's
I'll,
probably the easiest way for me to respond back to players.
okay. Sounds good. All right, Matt. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, you too, Matt. I'm gonna end this. But did you have like 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, what's up?
Okay. Okay. Wait. I'm just gonna end it and. Uh, okay, I'll just ask you really quickly right now. Actually, wow, it's recording. It's fine. Um, what is this? Okay. The footage that you recorded yesterday. Uh, would you be able to send me that?
Um, Possibly. I record a lot. I know it looks like I record a lot, but I only recorded parts of it, and I can try. What part do you want? They're pretty big files, so I can't really send the whole thing,
Okay. Wait.
probably, because
But
like it's like if like 8 minutes of film is like 4 gigs
yeah. Wait. Can I
because of the what you're filming in.
call you on Instagram right now? I was gonna end this the Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.